Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mastering Life Shorts. This is the 22nd webinar, and we're talking about change. Now, there are a million books and courses on change, and I've got 15 minutes. So all I'm going to do today is talk about two particular models of change that might help you either in the workplace or in your home life. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the Kubler Ross Change Curve. Now, I wrote about this in Mastering Life, the ebook that's available on my website. But I've learned more about it actually in the last year since I wrote that book, and I thought I'd share with you. So for those people who don't know, the Kubler Ross Change Curve was developed in 1969 by Elizabeth Kubler Ross, who was a psychologist who was looking into what people feel when they're coming close to death. So they've been told, for example, that they are going to die of a disease. And she said that there were these different stages. So it starts off with denial, that nothing changes really in you, and you just move on in life. Then you feel anger, then bargaining, depression, acceptance, and then you get back to the new normal. And I'm going to unpick each one of these as we go. And then I'm going to tell you why there's a problem with it in the way it's being used today. So I was first, this was first explained to me when I was in a company and they were going through a big, large scale change, and there were going to be lots of redundancies. So they said, you will feel this. And they said, okay, so at first you will probably feel denial. You will go into shock. You will be saying, oh, this can't be happening to me. I'm nothing to do with this. In the same way that Kubler-Ross was saying, you know, this isn't me. I'm not actually dying. Your diagnosis is incorrect. The next one you go through is, according to this curve model, is anger. That you say, this isn't fair. Why is this me? So in the case of death due to a disease, it might be, you know, you become angry with the circumstances that gave you that disease, whether it's your genetics or God or, you know, passive smoking or whatever. Then you go through bargaining. So you start to say, how can we find a way around this? How can I come through this? How can I get out of these redundancies? How can I stay in the company? Or you bargain with God. If you give me a few more months, then I will pray to you every day. Then you go through depression when you realize it's inevitable and you can't get out of it, and you sit there and you just say, well, if I can't fight it, what's the point in just moving, doing anything? I'm just going to sit and feel bad. After a while, according to this model, you then become accepting, and you start to feel better about this, and it's just the way it is. And then you find out whatever your new normal is. So in death, obviously, that would be acceptance that you are about to die and just find peace. And then maybe have to, you know, then that's the point that you would start pulling your affairs together. In moving on from a job, you realize you're going to move on from the job, and then you start searching for new jobs. Now, it's a nice model, but it's got several problems. So the first thing is that people don't always experience emotions in that order. So, for example, you might feel really angry when you know a change is coming, and you wouldn't necessarily feel that denial. You might have seen it coming and you get really angry about it. There is an issue in that the things on the curve are actually a mix. So anger is an emotion. Bargaining is a cognitive process that you go through and thinking through something. Really importantly, people don't always feel all the emotions. And in some of the cases, this has meant that people think that they're feeling the wrong things. So, for example, I had a relative quite recently who died, and the person who was caring for that relative probably didn't feel most of those emotions. The overarching feeling might have been one of relief, because being a carer for a long time is very, very draining. And the person who died, my relative who died, really didn't have a very good last few years. So a relief that that person had, the suffering had ended, and a relief that the other person, the carer, wasn't having to look after that person. Suddenly, you look at the curve and you say, "Well, have you felt numbness? Have you felt anger?" Well, no, I didn't. I just felt relief, and so you might not feel that. I was made redundant early last year. I didn't feel many of those things. I saw the writing on the wall beforehand. I was really excited because I could see a new part of my life coming on. So by saying you will go through these, then people start looking out for them, and actually maybe they don't. It's sometimes used to plan, predict, and minimize emotional responses. So you can imagine in a company, they're saying, right, we're going to make a big change and everyone's going to be really angry. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit them all down in a hall and we'll let them shout at us for a while. We'll really sort of push their buttons until they get that anger out there. And then we're going to ignore it because it's just a phase. Or in the bargaining, for example, if someone came to you and said, you're going to lose your job. We need to make redundancies. If you then went to them and said, actually, I've got a counter offer. I've got this idea that actually I could stay and it would be worth your while keeping me. If in your head, if you're the HR manager, you're just, oh, they're just bargaining, you're not going to listen to that person in the same way that if you're very, very open. So by labeling every part of this process, people then ignore the good that can come out of it. And it's also developed on observation of dying patients. The big thing about dying patients is that there is absolutely no get out. It is imposed from the outside, and they're going to go through a process. In actual fact, that many studies since then have said that all of the other things I've just said don't necessarily occur. Some people are dying and feel so much pain that they're very happy. Some people have acceptance all the way through. They know it's happening. Some people get excited by the last, they've got some time and they want to hit everything on their bucket list and move forwards. And again, they feel guilty that they're not feeling the right things. So it can be an unhelpful curve. So what the best way of using this curve, instead of using it as a linear pattern that people move through, you can instead say, okay, people might be feeling or doing these things. How can I respond? So, for example, if someone is in shock or denial, then make sure you're communicating. So, for example, if you were trying to leave someone and you notice that they're just not getting it, then be really, really clear in your information that you're giving them. If someone's feeling anger, then one of the things you need to do, if you're the one causing the anger, is to get out of the room. You are, if there's any way of getting out of the room, you're the person who's hurting that person. They need to be angry, and you are not going to help them. So that's one way of being. Dealing with it. Bargaining, listen to the person, clarify, be really firm about what the parameters that someone's going through, and then move forwards. If someone's depressed, similarly to anger, if someone's depressed and you're the cause of the depression, then it's probably best that you get out the room and find someone else to support that person. Or if if someone that you love is going through these phases or these different feelings because of change, then be there to support them. But know and help them to understand that it won't go on forever. If they're feeling acceptance, and celebrate it. I left my partner about 4 years ago, and it's taken him that long to get over the relationship. And it's only just now that we're starting to reconnect in a new way. He's accepted that I've moved on. He's starting to move on. And I celebrate that with him all the time. And every now and then I take him aside and say, look, I'm really pleased that I found a friend again, because that's really great. And then finding the new normal, helping people moving forwards. Now, Kubler Ross is all about imposed change. How can you help people with the change that you want to impose? And that's where John Kotter's 8-step process for change comes in. This was published in 1996 by a Harvard professor, and I'll talk you through the process, and then I'll give you 2 examples of how you could use this, one in work, one in home life. So the first stage you do is you create a sense of urgency that you need to make the change now. The next, you need to build a guiding coalition who will really guide the change. Then you need to form a vision of what that change will look like. Then you need to enlist an army and communicate the vision as widely as possible. You need to remove any barriers to promote action. You need to generate short-term wins that help people see the reason for change. You then need to accelerate that change, and then you need to really anchor the change. So I'll give the example of you're working in a company and you want to change the logo, something really simple. So first of all, in every company with every change I've ever come across, people say, oh, we're too busy. Why now? You can do it next year. There's too much going on. Why are they imposing this? So you need to impose that sense of urgency. You know, in the case of a logo, you might be looking at, this is what the customers say. You might be looking at the competitor logos. Building a coalition, bring together all the stakeholders, whether it's the marketing people, the sales people, the printing people, maybe even some customers who might help you understand what the logo needs to be. You then have a vision for what that logo is going to be. You then pull together people, maybe a logo champion in every department, and say, you're going to really push this logo through. People are going to say, we haven't got the money. We can't reprint everything. So you need to open up budgets and increase budgets and give them packets of money to reprint things. Celebrate. So maybe you find really good places that the logo's been used in really nice ways, and you put them together and show them in your newsletter or whatever. And then you start to accelerate. So you'd say, okay, by this date, no old logos on new documents. And then you anchor, by this date, every single one of our old documents that's still in the public eye needs to have changed. What about if you were breaking up with someone, for example? So first of all, you need to set yourself a deadline. When am I going to do this? Because too many people let bad relationships go on and on and on. Build a guiding coalition of people who can help you through the change. So bring together friends and family who will help you and your partner, who you want to be an ex-partner, to go through. Build a vision. This is what some people forget to do. It's to think, what is life going to be like outside? I don't like what I'm in, but how am I going to think about outside? Then enlist the army. You bring in friends, your friends and your family, and maybe even your partner's friends and family who are going to help both of you through that. When I left my partner, I had barriers. I couldn't at the time afford to move away. And that was a massive barrier for both of us moving forwards. So I didn't put in place the things I needed to in order to make that change work. And I ended up staying in the same house for 6 months. And that didn't work at all. And actually meant that the change really, really took longer to go forwards. Celebrate quick wins. So maybe you have things that you'd love doing that your partner doesn't like doing. So really go and enjoy them. Go out to those places that you'd never go together and really enjoy your new life. And maybe ring up your partner's friends and say, can you please take them to this thing that they love? Because I would never have gone with them. And then accelerate change and anchor change. You know, really start to enjoy your new life and move yourself out of that relationship and just enjoy the relationship you're in, while keeping an eye that they're still okay, if that's the right thing to do. Now, there's a huge amount of theory here, but it's quite difficult to work through on an individual basis in one 15-minute webinar. So on my website, if you go to englishleathermaster.com/mastering-life-shorts, I have put up my a worksheet for today. The password is changes. It basically talks about those two models that I've given you, and then challenges you to think through how you would use them in whatever changes you have in life. Now, as I said, this is a big thing. And actually, most of my coaching is about change. It's about people wanting going from state A to state B. And there's a lot of stuff in the middle. So if you are going through a change, if you want to go through a change, if you want to impose a change on people, then absolutely get in touch with me. I can give you a free 30-minute coaching experience, and we can talk about the change and how that would impact on you or other people and move you forward with that. Next week, I'm going to introduce you to possibly something that's new for a lot of people. It's called Kinefin, and it's a way of thinking about the circumstances you find yourself in and how you can respond best to those circumstances. So I'm really looking forward to talking to everyone about that next week. So thank you very much, and I'll see you then.